To be baptized is to be grafted into Christ, we say. Romans 11:17, grafted to share with the rich root, that of Christ. To be baptized is to be united with Christ in his death and resurrection, we say. Romans 6:4, we are buried and raised by our baptism with him. And then to be baptized is to become one with Christ. Not just with his teachings, but to become one with Christ. Galatians 3:27, clothe yourselves with this knowledge, clothe yourselves with Christ, right? To be baptized is to be named. Let's pray, and then I'll keep going. God, Yahweh, Elohim, name above all names. Remind us once again on this day how you claim us, how much you love us, and remind us how you call us by name. We love you so much, Lord. And all God's people say, amen. Matthew chapter 3, starting at verse 13. Then Jesus came from Galilee to John at the Jordan to be baptized by him. John would have prevented him, saying, I need to be baptized by you, and do you come to me? But Jesus answered him, let it be so now, for it is proper for us in this way to fulfill all righteousness. Then he consented. And when Jesus had been baptized, just as he came up from the water, suddenly the heavens were opened to him, and he saw God's Spirit descending like a dove and alighting on him. And a voice from the heavens said, this is my Son, the beloved, with whom I am well pleased. Friends, this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Have you ever spent much time thinking about your name? I'm sure some of you probably have. Some of you probably have more than others, but I bet we all have to some extent, right? You ever spent much time thinking about your name? Like, if you were named after somebody, you probably knew that growing up, right? You probably knew that you were named after somebody growing up. Or if your name comes from like a family name, you probably knew that growing up too. I met a baby Maud the other day. That's got to be a family name, right? Not a very popular name these days, baby Maud. And so I hope Maud knows who she's named after and she spends time thinking about it. If your name has a number at the end of it, or if you go by like Junior or the Second or Trip or Trey or the Quattro, I don't know exactly what it is, but if you're named like that, you've probably thought about your name quite a bit, right? You ever thought about your name? You've all spent some time with this, but do a deep dive with me for a minute. Go deep into your name and just think about it. Think about how it's shaped you. Think about how you've shaped it. Had a friend growing up, she lived down the street from me. She absolutely loved her name, absolutely loved her name. Not because she was named after anybody that she was aware of, or not because the root of her name meant something special that she was aware of. She didn't know any of that stuff. No, she just loved the sound of her own name. We all do, but she really loved the sound of her own name. Irene Merritt. She used to say it all the time, I am Irene Merritt. It's just the perfect combination of syllables, she would say. It just rolls off your tongue, doesn't it? Irene Merritt. Irene Merritt. Say it with me, Irene Merritt. Like, yes, Irene. Okay, can we keep playing kickball now? No, Irene Merritt. Say my full name. I want to hear my Irene Merritt. And so we'd be like, Irene Annoying Merritt. Pitch the ball. We got to play. Come on now. She had spent a lot of time thinking about her own name. She'd spent a lot of time enjoying her name. How about you? How much time have you spent thinking about your name? Let's think about this. Have you ever spent much time thinking about someone else's name? Think about that for a minute. Parents typically have. Parents normally get to name their child, right? That's a weird experience, isn't it? But yeah, we name children. You have to come up with a name. And we did this with Annabelle Grace and Paige Noel. We picked those. Those are the names that we chose for our children. Annabelle Grace was originally just going to be Anna Bell. It was going to be first and middle name Annabelle. She was going to be our little Georgia peach because she was born in Atlanta there, and so we thought that was a very southern thing to do. We were imports to the South. We were learning, and so we thought, well, maybe Annabelle, and she'll go by that, and she can live her life as Annabelle. But then we were afraid. At one point, we got so used to the name Annabelle that if we moved, that might not catch on, and then she'd go by Anna. And like, Anna's a beautiful name. Anna literally means beautiful. We love the name, but we got so attached to Annabelle, Anna just wasn't her name. And so we realized we had to change it. We had to change it before she was even born to Annabelle, one word, and then Grace, great middle name for a PK, right? Annabelle Grace. And that's who she is. She has lived into that name. Paige, our second one, Paige Noel. Paige actually has roots in French and Latin, meaning child or servant or helper. And then Noel actually comes from the core meaning of Old French, meaning Noel, or the Latin natalis. Think like neonatal there, natalis. Now, in modern French, Noel is often shorthand for Christmas, yes, but originally it just meant day of birth, or incarnation, or enfleshment, or the beginning of a heartbeat. So when you combine Paige and Noel, this child here, help born, servant's heart. She's lived that one out already too. See what I mean? Sorry, Irene, I like those names a little bit more. Sometimes when you spend time diving into a name, you appreciate it in new ways. But what's in a name, really? What's in a name? That's the famous line that Juliet says in Romeo and Juliet. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell so sweet. That's her statement, that's her claim, it's her thesis, but I'm not so sure. I don't know. I mean, I get it. I get what she's doing, but I don't know. I mean, if we called the rose what it really was, do you think it would still catch on in the same way? This fleshy protuberance growth on the side of a briar bush bramble, do you think that would really catch on? Would we give those out at Valentine's Day if we called them protuberances? I don't know. I think there's something to the naming that goes into there. I know what Juliet was doing, though. She was using some poetic license there, right? Trying to get at a deeper truth, and I appreciate that. Juliet wasn't talking about the actual name of a rose there. She was talking about the naming of a man, Romeo. She was talking about the naming of a Montague, if you know the story. She was talking about the naming of an enemy, right? Her family hated because of that name. Some people hate because of a name. Anyone know Barack Obama's middle name? Anyone know it? It's Hussein. Barack Hussein Obama. And he intentionally hid his middle name when he went into politics because he was afraid. He was afraid. He knew people and he was afraid. And he thought, you know what? There are some people who are going to hate me because of my name. So I'm just going to go by Barack Obama. Barack Hussein Obama. We know that there are some people who hate because of a name. Think of the infamous Hatfields and McCoys. Remember them? Two families, two names that hated each other completely and fully, right? If you don't know it, this is a long-standing irrational conflict. It's hostility passed down throughout the generations between these two families. It's the epitome of someone's identity being defined by opposition rather than through character development, right? And no one knows how it started exactly because both families blamed the other family for starting it. So no one knows how it started. But it supposedly ended on New Year's Day in 1888 when one family snuck up on another family that was still asleep. They burned their house, they shot their son, and they beat their daughter as they woke them up on that morning. Now the result, several of the attackers on that day, they were tried, they were sentenced, and a couple of them were actually hanged as a result of this. But before they were hanged, they were asked as to why. Why did you do all this? Why did you attack that family like this? And all they could say was this, I hate all people with that name. Isn't that sad? Maybe one of the families could have changed their name to Rose. I wonder if it would have made a difference, right? What's in a name? There's a lot of thought that goes into a name. There's a lot of intention that goes into a name. A name can give you a sense of identity and belonging and meaning. A name can evoke feelings of love and feelings of hate and feelings of connection. Some names can cause us to pause. Some names can even cause us to fear. What's in a name? Do you think a name can lead you somewhere? Do you ever think a name can call you into becoming someone? I still remember when I was in my parents' blue Ford station wagon in the third row rear-facing seat. Remember those? Before we figured out they were super dangerous. Yeah, it was really fun sitting back there. And so very back of my parents' station wagon, I remember the first time I heard the song "A Boy Named Sue," Johnny Cash. You know it? Yeah, that's the first time I heard it. If you don't know, it's a song about a boy whose dad left him, but when he left him with only one thing. Not a blessing, not a final word, not a note. No, none of that. He left him with one thing. He left him with a name. That's all he got. He gave him a name. And it starts out like this. He says, "Well, my daddy left home when I was 3, didn't leave very much to my mom and me, except this old guitar and an empty bottle of booze. Now, I don't blame him because he run and hid, but the meanest thing that my daddy ever did was before he left, he went and named me Sue." Boy Named Sue by Johnny Cash. Now, the story of the song keeps going after that. It's a boy who was picked on his entire life. It's a boy who felt like he's picked on because he had a girl's name, right? That's what he said. Girls laughed at him, boys beat him up. One line from the song says it like this: because he's a boy named Sue, seemed he had to fight his whole life through. At the end of the song, he finally meets up with his father, and kind of the last verse there, he finally meets up with his father after not knowing him his entire life after the age of 3, and he's mad, and he's really mad at him for naming him Sue, and he gets into a fist fight with him, and like it kind of goes crazy for a little bit, but at one point, the father begins to laugh in the midst of the fight. The father begins to laugh, and the boy's like, "What's so funny?" And then he says this, he says, "I knew that I wasn't going to be there for you growing up, but I knew how hard this world could be, and I still wanted you to be tough. And so what I did was I named you Sue, making sure that people would rough you up enough to make sure that you'd still be tough." And so in the midst of their brawl, in the midst of their rumble, the father laughed because he realized he was right. His boy had grown up to be really tough. Now, all sorts of messed up, right? Let's not go down that path. That's not a good path to go down. All sorts of messed up. Pain as purpose, shame as formation, naming as warfare. Yeah, we're not going to go there, but you get my point. Do you think a name can shape you? Can it call you into becoming who you become? Can it lead you down a certain path in life? I used to hate my middle name, Christopher. I absolutely hated it. Another memory I have is coming home from kindergarten one day, and I was crying, I was upset, I was all angry. And my parents had given me that name as my middle name. I was so mad. I was like, "Why did you give me that name, Brian Christopher? Why did you name me that?" And they said, "Well, what's wrong? Did someone make fun of you, or did someone call you a funny name because of it?" I said, "No, it's just too long and I can't spell it." We were learning to write our full names, and it was if you think of the R's and the H's there, it gets kind of confusing pretty quick, especially for a kindergartner. But I was mad. And I told them that they named me wrong. "You picked wrong," I said. Later on, I came to find out that Christopher literally means Christ bearer. It means like you bear Christ to the world, like you carry Christ to the world, like your job is to help others see Christ in their midst. Did my name shape me? Was my name a part of my call? This is often how it happens in the Bible. We have over and over examples of this in the Bible. Someone's named something, and then maybe later on we find out as to why, right? Remember Ruth? Remember Ruth in the Bible, Old Testament? So Old Testament lost her husband, but she stayed with her mother-in-law after she lost her husband. It was a vulnerable thing to do back then, but she stayed with her mother-in-law because she was also alone, and she stayed to help her and to take care of her and to be there for her. She said the thing, where you go, I will go. That's Ruth. Remember Ruth and Naomi? Now, the name Ruth literally means good friend or companion. She was called that from birth. She was called good friend and companion since her birth. And then much, much later in life, she's faced with a choice. How much do you think her name shaped her decision to stay with Naomi? Think about Joshua for a minute. Joshua fit the battle. Joshua led the people. Joshua kept God before them. That was his goal all the time. The name Joshua literally means the Lord saves. The Lord saves. And I wonder if, as he was leading God's people into the promised land, as they were finally getting there after wandering for years and years and years and decades out there, if he was leading this group into the promised land, as he was leading someone down there, someone finally leaned over and was like, Joshua, I get your name now. I finally understand it. How much do names shape us? Moses seems kind of clear-cut, right? We get this one in Scripture. Moses means drawn out, and we get this at the very beginning. They call him Moses because he's drawn out of the water, right, in the basket. And so you think that, well, maybe this one's already happened, but then later on you find out he was destined to draw others out of bondage. And maybe that's why he was named Moses. Maybe that's why he did what he did, right? Yeah, sometimes I wonder how much a name shapes us, how much sway a name holds over us. Can a name lead us down a certain path? Can a name call us into who we are becoming? How much power do we give to that name? Think of Jesus. Think of Jesus. Matthew 1:21. You are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. And that's what it literally means, save his people from their sins. What do you think teenager Jesus thought of his name? What do you think all the other teenagers around teenager Jesus thought of his name? Do you think it shaped him? Do you think it shaped those around him? Yeah, it had to have, right? Let's keep going with that one because he's got a lot of names, right? People called him all sorts of names. Matthew 1:1, Jesus the Messiah. Messiah means anointed one, anointed to deliver, anointed to restore, anointed to heal. Before he was even born, they started calling him a Messiah, the anointed one. Matthew 1:23, they called him Emmanuel, which means God with us. Even as a baby, he was to serve as a reminder. The name Son of David, meaning rightful heir, royal line, inherited title, heightened expectations upon arrival, maybe. The name Son of Abraham, meaning this child, this baby, this infant, will be the one who carries on the covenant and the promise to bless all people. Yeah, what's in a name? Even King of the Jews. The Magi call him this. Where is this child who has been born King of the Jews? This name provokes hatred from Herod, right? Changes the story. This name threatens power before he even speaks a word. And then there's one more. He gets one more. Jesus gets the name at his baptism, the Beloved. Jesus is dubbed the Beloved. God says, this is my Son, the Beloved, with whom I am well pleased. Before Jesus even begins his ministry, he is named the Beloved of God. Before Jesus even goes into the desert to be tempted and to prove himself, he is named the Beloved. Before he preaches and teaches and heals and does anything really, before he does anything that's recorded in the Bible, he is named Beloved. I wonder how that shaped his life. I wonder how that shaped his ministry. I wonder how it shapes yours, right? Because remember, just think about it. To be baptized is to be grafted into Christ. You're a part of him now. To be baptized is to be united with Christ in his death and resurrection. To be baptized is to become one with Christ, not just in his teachings. You are becoming one with Christ. To be baptized, therefore, is to be named the same. You are God's beloved. You are the beloved. Brittany Manning says it like this: in baptism, we are named the beloved, just as Christ was. Before we even speak, before we ever strive, before we can even begin to fail, we are named God's beloved. He says, let that shape you. Henry Nouwen writes it like this. He says, in baptism, we hear the same words Jesus heard at the Jordan. You are my beloved. Baptism is the moment when God claims us, names us, and says that before we do anything right or wrong, we belong. One more. Nadia Boltz-Weber puts it like this. She says, in baptism, God names us beloved before we have ever earned it or proven it or cleaned ourselves up even. Just like Jesus, we are claimed, not because of who we are, but because of whose we are. Friends, you are the beloved. Your name is God's beloved. And think about it. Just think about it. What's in a name, right? Just think about it for a minute. There's a lot of intention that goes into naming. There's a lot of thought that goes into giving a name. A name can give someone a sense of identity and belonging and meaning and connection. It can evoke these feelings, these deep feelings. Some names can even cause us to pause, right? And in the midst of all that, God in your baptism grabs you by the shoulder and looks you in the eyes and then just names it. God names it. God names you. God says, you are my beloved. Let that sink in. Before you ever earned it, before you ever deserved it, before you could even try to mess it up, God looks at you and says, you are my beloved. And there is nothing you can ever say or do that will change that. Friends, let that name shape you. Let that name form you. Let that name inform you as you go throughout your life. Let that name lead you forward in this world. You are God's beloved. Because to be baptized is to be named.